State, please call your next witness.
The state would call Britany Jacobs.
Face the clerk, raise your right hand and repeat.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes.
Ma'am, if you step this way, have a seat, pull yourself up to the microphone, and speak in a loud and clear voice for the court, please.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you please turn to the jury and state your name and spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
Britany Jacobs, Britany Jacobs.
Right. And how old are you today?
26.
I'm going to turn your attention back to July 19th, 2018. Back during that time frame, were you working somewhere?
Yes.
Where was it that you were working?
East Bay Nursing Rehab Center.
And what type of job did you have?
I was a certified nursing assistant.
I'm assuming you had to go to school for that, correct?
Yes.
All right. And where'd you go to school?
SPC.
And what type of place was East Bay Rehab?
It was a nursing rehab center with dementia patients.
And so you're a certified nursing assistant there?
Yes.
Back then, what were your hours?
7 to 3.
Okay, when you say 7 to 3, is that 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
Yes.
Now, do you work there today?
No.
All right, what are you doing these days?
Taking care of my kids.
All right. How many kids do you have?
4.
Do you know someone by the name of Markeis McGlockton?
Yes.
And how long had you known Markeis McGlockton for?
For 10 years.
And who was he to you?
He was my soulmate and my partner.
How was it that y'all met?
Through a mutual friend, through Denny High School.
Did Markeis work?
Yes.
And we're obviously talking about during this period of time. Where did Markeis work?
At 7-Eleven.
What did Markeis do at 7-Eleven?
He was a cashier.
How, you know what his hours were?
10 to 7.
Okay. Did he work 10 a.m. or 10 p.m.?
10 p.m.
So 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yes.
When you were at work, who was responsible for taking care of the kids?
Markeis.
So back then, how many kids did you have?
I had 3.
All right. And now you have 4?
Yes.
All right. Were you pregnant at the time this was happening?
Yes.
Okay. And when I say this was happening, back on July 19th.
Yes.
Did you know you were pregnant?
No.
When you were at work, Markeis would watch the kids?
Yes.
And then when you came home, was it then your time to take care of the kids?
Yes.
And then Markeis would go to his job at around 10 o'clock.
Correct.
When would he try to sleep?
During the time he dropped me off.
On July 19th of 2018, were you working on that day?
Yes.
How was it that you got to work at East Bay Rehab?
He dropped me off. Markeis dropped me off.
Then he went back home, presumably with kids?
Yes.
After your shift was over, did he come to pick you up?
Yes.
When he came to pick you up, did he continue driving, or did y'all switch seats and you drove?
We switched and I drove.
Where did you go? Did you go anywhere on the way home?
Yes.
Where did you go on your way home from work?
We stopped at the Circle A.
And that's at Sunset Point Road,
Yes.
here in Pinellas County?
Yes.
When you got to that location, did you pull into a particular spot?
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about that store. Have you been to that store before?
Yes. I go there all the time. Been there for years.
And when you say you, is it both you and Markeis would go to that store?
Yes.
Did you have any family that lived nearby?
Yes.
What family lived near that store?
I have my side of the family and he had his side of the family.
Were you close to your side of the family?
Yes.
Is he close with his family?
Yes.
One of the reasons why you'd always go to that store?
Yes.
Now, you've been going to that store for years?
Yes.
Have you, on occasion or frequently, seen people park in the handicap spot?
Yes. All the time.
And people that weren't handicapped?
Right.
All right, and we're not saying we're not saying that's right, but that's just what you've seen.
Yes.
When spot did you take?
The handicap spot.
Should you have parked there?
No.
What was the purpose of going to the store that day?
It was just to run in the store, grab some snacks, and come out.
Who was it that was going to go run into the store and grab those snacks?
Markeis and little Markeis.
All right. So let's talk about who was in that car during that period of time. So obviously it was you,
Yes.
Markeis McGlockton.
Yes.
You said little Markeis. So how old is little Markeis?
He was 5.
Anyone else in the car?
Yes.
Who else was in the car?
My 2 other babies. I had a 5-year-old Marley. No, I'm sorry, a 3-year-old Marley and my 6-month-old baby Marshawn.
So we'll call them Big Markeis and Little Markeis get out of the car to go into the store. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Did you plan on spending a half hour there?
No.
How long do you think y'all were going to be there?
Just a quick second, just in and out.
Obviously, you stayed with the car.
Yes.
Did you get out at any time and walk away from the car?
No.
Did you plan on getting out of the car and leaving to go anywhere?
No.
What was the reason that you stayed with the car?
Just in case if somebody did pull up and needed that spot.
If someone needed that spot, let's say that someone was handicapped, came up, would you move the car?
Yes.
You would have moved the car?
Yes, I would have moved the car.
Did you watch Big Markeis and Little Markeis go into the store?
Yes.
When you were there, did you see someone park their car and approach you?
Yes.
That person that parked the car and approached you, did you know that person at that time?
No.
Did you see that person approach your vehicle?
Yes.
And again, it's you and the 2 kids at this time, correct?
Correct.
When this person approaches you, was it a male or a female?
A male.
Was it a white male or a black male?
White male.
All right. Did you keep your eye on him?
Yes.
All right. What did that white male do at that time?
He started walking around the car. He started from the driver's side, started from the back, started from the passenger side, and stopped at the front.
Could you see him do anything with his hands?
Yes, he started pointing.
And tell the jury, who was he pointing at?
He started pointing at me.
Were you concerned at that point?
Yes, I was scared.
All right. And what were you thinking?
I didn't know who this strange, suspicious man was. I didn't know.
Could you hear him say anything to you through your windows?
No.
Could you see his lips moving, his mouth moving?
Yes.
All right. So he was saying things, but at this point you couldn't hear what he was saying?
Correct.
And you said that he was doing what with his hands?
He was pointing.
Did there come a point in time when you put your window down?
Yes, I cracked it.
All right. So you didn't put your window down all the way?
No.
When you put your window down, did this white male walk away?
No.
The white male that we're talking about, instead of referring to him as the white male, the person that we're talking about, do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you please point to him and identify him by some articles of clothing that he's wearing?
He's wearing a suit, a dark blue suit,
And what color shirt is he wearing?
a light blue.
Okay. May the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant, Michael Drejka.
It shall so reflect.
So, the defendant approaches your car, and you said you put your window down.
I cracked it.
You cracked it. So, did the defendant keep saying things to you?
Yes.
All right. So, what did you hear him saying?
He told me that you're parked in the handicap spot. I said, yes, I am aware. When my family returns to the car, I will leave.
Did you ask him if there's a handicapped person there that needed a spot or anything like that?
No.
Did the defendant say anything to you else? Did he stop then, or did he keep?
He kept going. He says, people that park here, I give problems to all the time.
Okay, so he said he gives problems to people that park in that spot.
Correct.
Did that make you feel any better?
No.
All right. Now, how was he having this conversation with you now? Was he having it like you and I, or was it different?
It was different.
All right, how was it different? Tell the jury.
He was more angry and aggressive.
Okay, how so? What was he doing? What was aggressive about him?
He was yelling and pointing and telling me where I should park.
Because of the way that he was with you, what did you do? Did you respond to him?
We kept going back and forth.
Okay. Did you raise your voice at some point in time?
Yes.
All right. Were you getting loud with him?
Yes.
All right. And tell the jury, why was it that you were now getting loud?
Because I just wanted this man to just leave me alone. Just leave me and my babies alone.
Would you say that this became heated at some point?
Yes.
When you told the defendant that you wanted him to leave you alone, did he just back up and leave you alone?
No.
Did he get in his car and drive away?
No.
Did he back up and do anything at all?
No. He just kept arguing with me.
Okay. And was he still yelling at you?
Yes.
Okay. Was he doing anything with his hands?
Yes.
What was he doing with his hands?
Still pointing.
Did you want him to be there?
No.
Did there come a point in time when you wanted to do something so that the defendant wasn't going to be there?
Yes, I wanted to push him away. I just wanted him to just leave me and my babies alone.
All right, let's talk about that. Did you communicate that to the defendant?
No.
Okay. Did you ever say to him, leave me alone or I'm going to come out and I'm going to start, kicking your butt?
No.
Did you ever say to him, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to get out and I'm going to do something to you?
No.
Ever threaten him?
No.
At this point that we're talking about, is Markeis McGlockton inside the store?
Yes.
Did you get out of the car at any time when Markeis McGlockton was in the store?
No.
So everything that we just talked about was a thought that you were having in your own head?
Correct.
All right. Never verbalized to the defendant at all?
No.
Is there something that you said to the defendant to let him know there were other people with you?
Yes.
All right. Tell the jury what it is that you said.
I said, do you want me to get my man? And I said that as in, okay, maybe he'll leave me alone. Maybe he'll back off if you know I had somebody with me.
So you were telling him that because you still wanted him to go away from your car?
Yes.
Obviously you didn't want him there.
Right.
So you told him to leave you alone.
Right.
Did he leave you alone?
No.
When you told him about you had your man there, the reason you did that was for him to leave you alone?
Yes.
Did he
And
leave you alone?
No.
What did he continue to do?
He kept arguing with me, and he said yes if you want him to fight.
Okay, now let's talk about that. Who said that?
Drejka.
Okay, so now you didn't know his name back when this happened, right?
No.
All right. So after this, you learned what his name was.
Right.
Okay. So what is it that the defendant said to you after you were talking about your man?
I told him, do you want me to go get my man? And he said yes if you want him to fight.
Okay. So the person who brought up fight first was the defendant.
Correct.
Right. Now, at this point in time, are you saying anything to him? Are you threatening him?
No.
All right. At any time, do you threaten him?
No.
Okay. Is there a point in time when Markeis comes out of the store?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. Were there other people that were pulling into the parking lot when this was happening?
Yes.
Volume-wise?
I
You
mean-
and the defendant going back and forth. Loud, quiet?
It was loud. Everybody is noticing by this time.
Okay. So the people that were in the parking lot, could you see them looking over your direction?
Yes.
Was there a point in time when Markeis McGlockton came out of the store?
Yes.
While he was in the store, still loud outside?
Yes.
When Markeis came out, did you see him start coming down the sidewalk?
Yes.
At the time that Markeis first comes out of the store, is the defendant still near your car?
Yes. And he's still pointing.
Okay, still pointing at you. At the time that Markeis first comes out of the store, are you inside your car still?
Yeah.
Do you see Markeis coming down the sidewalk?
Yes.
Is there a point in time when you get out of your car?
Yes.
Okay. What's the reason that you got out of the car?
Because I didn't know what was going to happen. And if anything bad was going to happen, it was going to happen outside the car and not inside the car with the babies.
Did you have any idea what would happen from the moment you got out of the car?
No.
Did you have any idea, and I know it sounds like an obvious question, that Markeis McGlockton was going to be shot?
No.
Did you have any idea that Markeis was going to push the defendant?
No.
When you got out of the car and the defendant's right there, what's the distance between the two of you? And by two of you, I mean you and the defendant.
It was a good distance.
Okay. I mean, was he 10 feet away, or was the defendant close by? Was he, 5 feet away?
9 feet away.
Okay. From the defendant, not Markeis, the defendant.
Right.
Okay. So
It was
when Markeis is coming closer, where's the defendant in relation to you?
We were separated. It was a distance.
Okay. So you and the defendant weren't right face to face?
No.
did there come a point in time when Markeis was very close?
Yes.
Did Markeis say anything to the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. What did you hear him say?
He said, "Get away from my girl."
And what did Markeis do at that point?
Push Michael Drejka down.
All right. At the point that he pushed Michael Drejka, did he push him farther away from you?
Yes.
Because he was closer to you before that, obviously.
Correct.
When Markeis pushed the defendant down, just prior to that, did you make any moves towards the defendant?
No.
Okay, were you going to go attack him?
No.
Had you threatened the defendant at that point in any way?
No.
What were you doing? Just standing there?
I was retreating. Everybody was.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. When the defendant fell on the ground, what did you see him do?
He pulled his gun.
Did you have a clear view of that?
Yes.
I'm talking about prior to this now, prior to the defendant taking out his gun. Did you take any steps or do anything towards the defendant?
No.
Once that gun came out, what did you do?
I retreated to the left,
Okay. And would that be towards the back of your car or the front of your car?
to the back.
Did you have an opportunity to see what Markeis was doing once that firearm came out?
He was treating also. He was backing up, and he couldn't back up no farther because the car was there.
So you had a clear view of that?
Yeah.
When the gun came out, did you hear Markeis say anything to the defendant?
There was silence.
Okay. And by silent, does that mean that the defendant wasn't saying anything to Markeis as well?
Everybody was quiet.
Okay. So once the push happened, there was silence.
Yes.
So you indicated that the defendant took the firearm out and Markeis was going backwards?
Yes.
And I think he indicated this, but could he keep going backwards?
No.
Why not?
The car was there.
Did you see where Markeis went after he went backwards?
Towards the car.
Okay, backwards towards the car?
Yes.
What was the defendant doing at that point in time?
He was aiming the gun. Aiming at Markeis.
Okay. And did the defendant shoot Markeis?
Yes.
Was that after Markeis went backwards?
Yes.
Prior to that shot being fired, did Markeis go forwards at all?
No.
Okay, just went backwards, that's it.
Yes.
Did you see whether or not Markeis did anything else?
Yeah, he had hold his side, and he went towards the store.
Okay, so once the shot was fired, you saw Markeis grab his side?
Yes.
When you saw Markeis go inside, what was the next thing that happened?
I seen Markeis down there fighting for his life. So I grabbed a t-shirt and I put it toward his wound and stopped the bleeding.
Okay, let me take you just back a little bit. So you're outside when the shot's fired, is that correct?
Right.
And you see Markeis run into the store.
Right.
Do you go directly into the store or do you do something first?
I do something first.
All right, tell the jury what you did first.
I run around the other side, the passenger side. I wind the window up, made sure the kids were safe. I locked the door, and I ran in after Markeis.
Okay. When you ran inside after Markeis, were there any other customers inside the store?
Yes.
Male, female, do you remember?
It was a female.
Did that female help you in any way?
Yes.
All right. So let's tell the jury what happens. You come inside. Where do you see Markeis?
He's down on the ground.
And what do you see?
He's fighting for his life.
Is Markeis Jr. still in the store?
Yes.
When that lady's with you, what does she help you do?
She just gave me a shirt.
Okay. And what did you do with that shirt?
I put it on Markeis' wound.
At any point, did you call 911?
Yes.
Now, did you stay in the store the entire time?
I had to run out because by this time I was worried about my kids because the armed man was still out there. So I ran in my car, I pulled it in the front, I turned the AC on, I locked the door, and I ran back inside by Markeis' side. And I stood there until the ambulance came.
Okay. Did you move your car because you didn't want the police to see where it was parked?
No.
All right, what was the purpose of you moving that car?
So I can keep an eye on my babies and Markeis.
Okay. So the kids were still in the car this whole time?
Yes.
The lady that was helping you, did she help you with the kids?
Yes.
Were you there when the paramedics came?
Yes.
And I would imagine a lot of police officers and detectives came to the scene?
Yes.
Right. You gave a statement to the police?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? I don't have any further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any cross-examination? Ms. Ford?
Good afternoon, Ms. Jacobs.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Now, since this incident happened, you've given several statements to the police, correct?
Remember a couple of them.
Right. You gave one the same night that it happened,
Yes.
and then you had a deposition months later.
Yes.
Right, so I'm going to talk to you first about the statement you gave the same night that this incident happened, okay? Right. Did you have a chance to go over those statements with the prosecutors before you came today?
Yeah.
Okay, and you had a chance to watch the video?
Yes.
Right. So let's talk about when you were coming to the Circle A store. You pulled directly into the handicap spot, correct?
Yes.
There were other spots available,
Yes.
all right? There weren't a bunch of cars in the parking lot that prevented you from parking anywhere else,
Yes.
all right? And you pulled in and you said you came in for just a quick second.
Right.
You planned on basically just getting some drinks, or Markeis getting drinks, and then you were to leave.
Yes.
You kept the car in drive,
Yes.
and the car was still running? Yes?
Yes.
You'd have to verbally answer yes for the court reporter.
Yes.
The windows were up?
Yes.
You had tinted windows?
Yes.
Okay. And so you now pull into this spot. Markeis and little Markeis go inside of the grocery store.
Right.
All right. By the time they get into the store, that's when Mr. Drejka's vehicle pulls up.
Right.
All right. So Mr. Drejka didn't see Markeis and little Markeis going into the store.
No.
Right. So had no reason to know that there was anybody else in the store.
No.
So you see this car pull up, and you said you see this man walking around the vehicle.
Right.
And he has on glasses,
Yep.
and they're
Dark
tinted
tan.
glasses.
Yep.
They were blue?
Blue.
All right. And he comes around and he goes around to the back of the vehicle. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And then he comes around and he's looking around the front of the vehicle.
Yes.
And then you roll your window down.
I cracked it.
You cracked it, you cracked the window down,
Mhm.
and you start having a conversation.
Right.
Now, you said that you were scared,
Yes, I was.
all right? But nothing had happened yet.
No, but he was walking around my car.
Okay. You didn't try to pull your car away and try to leave.
No. I told him once my family returned to the car, I would leave.
Well, but before you even cracked the window down, you said you saw a person who was suspicious walking around your vehicle. You got your two babies in the car, but yet you cracked the window down
Yes.
and you engage him in conversation.
I just wanted to see what did he need? Like, why are you walking around my car?
Okay. All right, so granted, you did that. You pulled it down. You asked him, what do you want? Or either way, he says something. You try to crack it down to hear what he says, or you say something to him, and he tells you it's about the parking spot.
Right.
So at that point, you know it's about the parking spot. You could have just rolled your window back up, right?
Yeah.
Could have said, whatever, mind your business.
I
Right?
basically said that. I basically told him to just leave me alone.
Right, but you didn't roll your window up.
Right.
You engaged him in conversation. And not just conversation, you were arguing with him back and forth.
Yes, because he was arguing with me.
Right, and that's generally how an argument goes. It's two people. One argues, the other argues, and you both are going at it.
Right.
And to be quite frank, he should have minded his business. Right?
Right.
And that's how you felt. Right? And you wanted to relay that to him.
Right.
And he felt that you shouldn't be parking in the parking spot.
Right.
And so you guys are going back and forth. Now, he's outside of your car door, correct?
Yes.
He never reaches inside of your window.
No.
He never reaches inside of your door.
No.
And in fact, the window that has your children in it, that window's not down.
No.
And it's tinted windows.
Right.
All right. And so it's just back and forth, arguing, and he's pointing and talking, correct?
Right.
Now, from where you're seated in the vehicle, you can see the front entrance to where the door is.
Yes.
And Mr. Drejka is kind of standing at an angle to you, arguing with you.
Right.
And his back is to the entrance of the store. Correct?
I mean, it's like towards the side of the
Right.
store.
So the door is to the left of him,
Right.
but you can see the door straight ahead.
Right.
and you make the statement, you want my man to F you up, you want my man to come here and F you up, right? Something along those lines.
I said, do you want me to get my man?
Okay. Now, I want to talk about the statement you said that Mr. Drejka made, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, you said that because you knew that your man would probably come and defend you, right?
I mean, yes.
You felt like if your man thought something was going on, he was going to come and do something.
Yes, and I said that, to get this man away from me. I thought that was going to scare him away.
Okay. But going back to the beginning, you could have rolled your window up and just drive to the other side of the store, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you didn't do that. So you're yelling back and forth, and while you're seated still in your vehicle, you see Markeis coming out the grocery store.
Yes.
And when you see him, you open up the door and you get out the car.
Yes.
But you said you were scared,
I was scared.
right? But you got out the car.
Right.
But you weren't scared anymore because you knew Markeis was coming.
I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen. I just wanted this man to leave me alone.
Right. But you got out the car when you saw Markeis coming.
Right.
Before that, you didn't try to get out the car.
No.
So now you see your man coming. You get out. Markeis runs up. Correct?
Yes.
And he shoves Mr. Drejka to the ground. Yes?
Yes.
And Ms. Drejka flew, I think in your estimation, it was about 2 feet.
I don't remember how many feet,
Right.
but
It wasn't a tap, correct?
it was a push.
Right.
It was
And
a
it
hard
literally
push.
knocked Mr. Drejka off his feet.
Right.
Yeah, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
And right when Markeis did that, Markeis also made a step forward after he even pushed him.
No.
You don't recall that?
No.
You watched the video?
Yes.
Now, going back to Mr. Drejka, the whole time you're arguing with him, he never tells you that he has a firearm, correct?
No.
He never threatens you.
No.
He never said he was going to shoot you.
No.
He didn't put his hand on his hip and try to signal to you that he had a firearm.
No.
You guys are just having a plain verbal argument, difference of opinion,
Right.
that's really loud,
Yes.
and people are listening.
Yes.
And even when Markeis is coming, Mr. Drejka didn't see him, correct?
Yes.
He was blindsided, correct?
Yes.
Because Mr. Drejka was focused solely on you. Is
Right.
that correct?
Right.
And in fact, when you talked about, you said the word, I retreated to the left and Markeis retreated. You never used the word retreat in any of your statements to law enforcement, correct?
I don't recall, but I remember telling him we was, moving back.
Fair, but you never said retreated, correct?
I don't remember.
And to be clear, Markeis never turned his back to Mr. Drejka, correct?
No.
He never turned around as if going back into the store.
No.
And in fact, it was more like a slant, correct?
Yeah.
And in fact, you believe that it was Markeis backed up to see what he was going to do.
Everybody was backing up. Everybody was retreating.
Well, I'm talking about, I know you say retreat, but Markeis was trying to see what he was going to do, meaning Mr. Drejka.
He was-
speculation.
Sustained.
Now, after Markeis shoved Mr. Drejka to the ground, they were still pretty close in distance from each other, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Drejka actually falls on his butt.
Yes.
Now, Markeis was about 205 pounds.
No.
No?
No.
How much did he weigh?
He was only 100 and something. Like 190.
Okay, about 190 pounds. He was 28 years old.
Yes.
Pretty muscular build.
Yes.
Now, you told the state that after Markeis was shot and he runs in the store, you actually went to the left, closed the door, and then went into the store.
Yes, I went around to the passenger side, winding my window up, and then I went in the store behind Markeis.
And isn't it true that you immediately ran after Markeis?
At first, I just went and winded my windows up. Then I ran after him.
And just so I can be clear, when you were arguing with Mr. Drejka, you guys never touched each other. There was never any physical touching or anything of that nature.
No.
All right. When you saw Mr. Drejka pull out the firearm, it was pretty quick, right?
Yes.
All right. It was actually really fast.
Yes.
And this entire time, Mr. Drejka still has on his blue tinted glasses
Yeah, and a hat.
and a hat. Now, I want to talk about that statement you said that Mr. Drejka said, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you want to fight? What was that statement that you said?
I said, do you want me to get my man?
And
He
then-
says yes, if he wants to fight.
Okay, now, did you look over the transcript of your interview from the night of July 19th?
Yes.
All right, and I'm gonna give you, if I can get a pen.
Wait, can I see defense counsel just for a second?
Sure.
Now, at some point during this, you had testified earlier that you were scared of Mr. Drejka, correct?
Yes.
When he was walking around the car,
Yes.
right? But in fact, you actually said that you were about to put your hands on her,
Yes.
right? That's not the statement of a person who's scared, correct?
I mean, yeah, I was still scared because I wanted him just to get away from me and my babies.
But a person who's scared doesn't say that they want to put their hands on somebody, right?
No.
With their 2 kids in the car, correct?
Correct.
Where they could have rolled their window up. And you didn't even have to move the car at the parking spot. You could have just rolled the window up, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't do that.
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Give me one moment, please. Ms. Jacobs, you knew that Markeis was going to come out and fight when he was coming out that store, correct?
No, I didn't know what was going to happen.
I mean, because you essentially said you want me to get my man, right?
I just wanted him to get away from the car.
Right. By opening your door and getting out.
No.
You did get out the car, right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This has been asked and answered several times.
I have no further questions at this time. Wait, one moment. Did you know that Markeis was on drugs at that time?
No.
No? Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Redirect.
Very, very briefly. You were asked several times about what was happening in the car, if you were going to get out and stayed in. What was the reason you wanted him away from the car?
I just wanted him to leave me and my babies alone. And if anything bad was going to happen, it was going to happen outside that car and not inside the car with the babies.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. State, please call the next witness.
The state would call Robert Castelli.
You'll stand here, face the clerk, raise your right hand and repeat.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sir, if you'll step this way, have a seat, pull yourself up to the microphone and speak in a loud and clear voice for the court, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you please turn to the jury and state your first and last name and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Robert Castelli, Castelli.
Okay. You don't have to tell us exactly where you live, but in what part of the county do you live?
Clearwater.
Are you currently employed?
Yes.
And where do you work?
Frenchie South Beach.
I'm going to turn your attention back to July 19th, 2018. Were you working at the same place back then?
Yes.
All right. How long have you been working there for?
About a year.
About 3:15, did you find yourself at the Circle A store, 1207 Sunset Point Road?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about what you did before you got to that store. Tell us a little bit about your day.
I took my girlfriend to work in the morning. I dropped her off. I met my dad for lunch, and I actually brought food to my girlfriend to her job. And then on the way back is when I stopped at the store.
Okay. What city was your girlfriend working in?
Palm Harbor.
On your way back, I guess, do you live near the Circle A store?
Yeah, I used to live right on the corner, Sunset and Douglas.
Okay. So I'd imagine you've been to that store many times?
Yes.
when you went to the store, were you by yourself?
Yes.
Where did you pull in, parking lot wise? Where did you pull in when you got to the store?
Basically directly in front of the store door.
Okay.
Front door.
So when when you pull in, you're facing the front of when you pulled in, how were your windows? Meaning, were they up? Were they down?
My driver's side window is up. My passenger side window is actually broken. It doesn't go down all the way, so it actually stuck up about 2 inches. So that was up a little bit.
Okay. When you pulled into the parking lot, did you immediately get out of your car, or did you stay in your car?
No, when I first pulled in, I was actually getting change out of my cup holder, and I was probably in the car for a minute or two.
All right. While you're in the car for a minute or two, did you hear anything outside your car?
Yes.
All right. Did you hear that noise coming from your driver's side or from your passenger side?
Passenger side.
Was it something that caught your attention?
Yes.
All right. Tell the members of the jury why it was that it caught your attention.
A man basically yelling at a car, and it just caught my attention.
All right. So we're going to talk about this man for a little while. The man, do you see him in the courtroom here today?
Yes.
Okay. Can you point to him and identify him by some articles of clothing and the color?
Blue shirt, blue tie. Bluish.
May the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant, Michael Drejka.
It shall so reflect.
All right. So you said that you saw a man that you just identified as the defendant. Where was he in relation to this car?
Right in front of the driver's side
All right.
window.
And where was this car parked? Which parking spot?
It was in the handicap spot, basically facing me.
Did you have a clear view from your car?
Yes.
All right. So you heard it and you can see what was happening. When you first heard the yelling, was it one person or two people?
One person,
All right. And who was the one person that was yelling at this time?
Mr. Drejka.
All right. So the defendant's yelling at what? Basically the car?
Yes.
All right. And was the window up at that time?
Yes.
Did you see any movements or mannerisms that the defendant had when he was up there yelling at this car?
Yes, he was pointing at the window.
Okay. And again, this was loud enough that it caught your attention?
Yes.
All right. So what did you do? Did you keep looking over in that direction?
I mean, I basically was listening while I was fumbling for change, and then once I got out of the car, I was still listening, and it intensified.
Okay. So let's talk about that. You get out of the car, and what do you see? Is the window still up, or is it coming down?
Once I got out of the car, the window was down. I noticed there was a black woman in the car, and that's when I was more curious to what was going on.
Okay. Were you concerned for her?
Yes.
Or why was that?
Because he was shouting very loud, and I could tell he was very upset.
Okay. Did you hear her start? I mean, we play semantics, talking, conversing, yelling. What'd you hear?
Yeah, once the window went down, I heard an argument. Basically, it was a screaming match between the two parties.
Could you hear the black female telling the defendant anything about leaving her alone?
I mean, it was just a gist of, at that point, I wasn't listening to everything. I just noticed yelling. It was more just like mind your own business, and it was just an argument going back and forth.
Okay. So it wasn't leave me alone. It was her telling the defendant to mind your own business.
Yes.
All right. Could you hear every single thing that was being said between them?
No.
All right. So you could hear certain things of what was being said, but not all of it.
Yeah, it was a screaming match, so both sides were going back and forth. So I was only hearing bits and pieces of what that was actually being said.
Okay. And at this time, the black female was inside the car?
Correct.
Based on what you saw, were you still concerned about what was happening out there?
Yes.
All right. And what were you concerned about?
I didn't know what was going to happen next, so I just didn't know. Obviously it's a male yelling at a female, so I was concerned.
What did you do?
When I opened the door, I told the clerk that there's an altercation outside. You might want to get involved.
All right. So when you opened the door, did the volume of what was happening outside change in any way?
By the time I got out of the car and the window was down, it was an all-out screaming match.
All right. So very loud.
Yes.
When you went into the store, could you hear the defendant's voice as well as the female's voice?
Yes.
And then you went and you told the cashier, and again, what did you say?
There's an altercation outside. You might want to get involved.
While you're in there, can you hear both the female voice and the male voice?
Yes.
There's a point in time when a customer in there goes outside. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And was that customer a male or female?
When customer, you mean the woman that came out of the store?
someone ended up being shot, obviously, right?
Oh, yes, okay, it was a male, I'm sorry.
Okay, and was it a white male or a black male?
Black male.
When you went in to tell the cashier, was the black male close to you?
He was at the counter.
Okay, so he was actually in front of the cashier that you were saying there's an altercation outside, you might want to get involved.
Correct.
Obvious to you that that black male heard what you had said to the cashier.
Yes.
After you said what you said to the cashier, what did that black male do?
He just put his things on the counter, and then I saw him walk out of the store.
Okay. And again, while you're there, you can hear what's happening outside still.
Yes.
So the black male goes outside. Do you go to the door?
Yes.
And while you're standing at the door, do you hear anything happening in the same area?
Yes.
All right, and what do you hear?
Still a screaming match. I heard her say, "Wait till my man comes, he's going to handle you."
All right. Now, when this happens, is Mr. McGlockton walking down the sidewalk?
Yes.
And as he was walking down the sidewalk, is there a point in time when the female gets out of the car?
Yes.
And now when she's out of the car, is she close to the defendant?
Yes.
Okay, and it goes both ways. They're both close to each other, basically, right?
Objection, Your Honor, leading commentary as well, goes both ways. It's not a question.
Yeah, I'll rephrase it. When the female comes out of the car, is the defendant and the black female close together?
Yes.
And you can see that.
Yes.
And between you and what's happening is this black male.
Yes.
When you're outside, do you see the black male push the defendant?
Yes.
Prior to the black male pushing the defendant, does he scream any threats? And by he, does the black male scream any threats to the defendant?
No.
Does the black female go up and try to attack the defendant?
No.
Right before the black male pushes the defendant, what's the black female doing?
She was just standing there.
All right, and once the black male pushed the defendant down, did anyone say anything at all to anybody?
No.
Was it completely quiet?
Yes.
So obviously there were no threats?
Nope.
The defendant's not saying anything at all?
No.
After the defendant is on the ground, what happens next?
He basically rolled on his right side and pulled the gun out.
All right, let's talk about that. When the defendant fell on the ground, did you hear any words, ow or pain or anything along those lines?
No.
Okay. And did he voice in any way that he was injured at all?
No.
Okay. And I don't mean got him and said ow and hurt, but I mean when someone falls, if they're injured, some noises are made, anything like that.
No.
Did you watch him take out his firearm?
Yes.
Did he have any difficulty pulling out that firearm?
No.
Was it a one swift move?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he fumble with the firearm at all after being pushed to the ground?
No.
Okay. The firearm didn't fall out of his hand?
Nope. Very smooth.
Okay. Didn't have any difficulty grabbing it or aiming it?
Nope.
Was he able to right himself? Was the defendant able to get himself up in a position with that firearm?
Yes.
Any difficulty doing that?
No.
When you saw the firearm come out, what did you do?
I took steps to my right and got between two parked cars.
Okay. And it's going to be a very obvious question. What's the reason that you got yourself, with parked cars?
Did not want to get shot.
Okay. Even though there were parked cars between you and the defendant, did you have a clear view of what was happening?
Yes.
Okay. When that firearm came out, you went to where those parked cars were. Did you see what that black male did?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jury what the black male did.
Backed up.
Was that when the firearm was pointed at him?
Yes.
Did you see him go forward at all?
No.
Did you see him make any movements at all towards the defendant?
No.
Okay. What did he do?
Backed up.
Okay. Could he keep going back?
The car was behind him, so no, he couldn't go any further back where he was.
Okay. When he couldn't go any further backwards, what did you see that black male do?
Turned towards the store and went towards the front door.
Okay. So did you actually see his body actually turn to go towards the store?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you see his feet turn to go towards the store?
Yes.
You didn't have any difficulty seeing that?
No.
Did you see where the black male was looking, where his eyes were focused?
Towards the gun.
Okay, so based on what you're describing, he was turning to leave, but he was looking at the firearm.
Correct.
Did you see that black male get shot?
Yes.
What did the black male do after he was shot?
He held the wound and ran into the store and collapsed.
Once you saw the victim run into the store, what did you do next?
I basically kept my eyes on the shooter, and I slipped to the corner of the building, called 911.
All right, let's talk about the defendant a little bit. When he got up and took that firearm out, based on what you saw, did he appear to be overly shocked?
No.
Okay, did he appear to be disorientated?
No.
Confused?
No.
In an incredible amount of pain?
No.
After the shot, did you keep your eye on the defendant?
Yes.
And when you called 911, did you keep your eye on the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. At that point in time, did he seem overly shocked?
No.
Did he seem as though he was in an incredible amount of confusion?
No.
Disorientated?
Nope.
Dazed?
No.
Did he have any difficulty walking around?
No.
Did he fall on the ground?
No.
Where did you see him go? And by him, I mean the defendant. Where did he go?
Once I went to the corner of the building, I kept an eye on him. I saw him get up calmly, walk to his truck, and put the gun away.
Okay, let's talk about that. Did he have any difficulty opening the truck?
No.
Was he off balance?
No.
Did he have any difficulty based on what you saw putting the firearm in there?
No.
After he put the firearm in the truck, what did he do?
People were pulling up to the store, so he was actually telling them not to come in because he had just shot somebody. And then he was also muttering things to himself. You know, he shouldn't have pushed me down. What you think was going to happen? Not full sentences, just phrases, really. But he was visibly irritated.
Okay, so he was muttering to himself, what did he think would happen for pushing me down, basically?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And he said he wasn't talking to anyone, but he was kind of...
He was kind of pacing, like a car would pull in, he would tell him to go away, and then he was just walking back and forth, just saying stuff to himself.
Okay, and you said that when people were coming into the parking lot, what was he doing? What was the defendant doing?
Telling him, can't come in, I just shot somebody.
Again, didn't seem confused,
No.
dazed,
Nope.
disorientated?
Nope.
Based on what you saw, did that black male have any weapons on him?
No.
Make any moves that he was about to run and attack the defendant prior to being shot?
No.
Now, did you have an opportunity to prepare prior to testifying today?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to read a statement or a transcript from the sheriff's office?
Yes.
And when you were interviewed by them, that was videotaped?
Yes.
All right, and you read a transcript of it?
Yes.
Did you have your deposition taken in this case?
Yes.
All right, did you have an opportunity to read that deposition?
Yes.
All right, and
Can we object, can I approach, have an issue? Okay.
So you had an opportunity last week to read your deposition for the first time.
Correct.
When you read your deposition, did you see an error in there?
Yes.
Okay. And explain what the error was.
Basically, it was a part where I had numerous times said that what I heard was, wait till my man comes, he's going to handle you. But this one statement in the report said, I'm going to F you up, basically. And that was just my interpretation because I had said it so many times, so many, and that was just my interpretation. I never actually heard that. It was just me saying that's what I interpreted that phrase being.
Okay. So several times in the deposition we're talking about, it's not a report, you indicated about the handling part, correct?
Correct.
And then this one occasion, it was something to the effect of like a curse word going to F you up.
Yes.
And what you're telling the jury is that was your own personal impression of what was being said.
Of what that statement was. I didn't actually hear her say those words.
Okay. All right. And let me ask you this. When you were outside, and I know this will sound kind of silly, were you yelling over to the defendant, watch out, this is what's going to happen, or any words like that?
No.
Okay. Did you have any conversations at all with the defendant?
No.
Did you have any conversations, while this whole thing was taking place with the black female?
No.
Any conversations with the black male that was shot?
No.
Okay. And you don't know any of those people, correct?
No.
You just happened to be there.
Wrong place, wrong time.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? Nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Cross-examination.
Actually, I did have just a brief couple of questions.
Okay.
When you looked over that deposition and you found that error, was there something that you filled out?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you fill out once you found that error?
There was a paper in the back of the deposition where I was supposed to write any discrepancy or errors that I saw.
Okay. And then you signed and dated that yourself, correct?
Yes.
Did you write that whole thing out yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And then you gave it to the state attorney's office?
Yes.
Make sure that the defense got it, correct?
Yes.
So they were aware of it before the trial even started, correct?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Thank you. Mr. Castelli, good afternoon. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. Mr. Castelli, just so that the jury can get a clear picture of this deposition process, what you're referring to is back in December, specifically December 7th of 2018. That's when you and I first met, correct?
Yes.
This deposition that we're talking about, it was yourself, I think I was present, I believe Mr. Schaub was present?
Yep.
Correct? Perhaps a civil lawyer being present, do you recall another lawyer?
I believe so. Yep.
All right. And in that deposition process, so the jury can picture this, you were placed under oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, correct?
Yes.
All right. This statement where you said, you agree, you said it in that sworn deposition, that the young lady said from her car, my man is going to F you up. You did say that, right?
No, I said my man is going to handle you, and then I said he's going to F you up basically, which was, if you read it, is just an interpretation of me saying my man's going to handle you.
Okay, but my question was, did you say, in response to a question,
When you have a chance, can you tell me what
I will,
page of mine you're on?
yes. Did you say at any point, he's going to F you up? Did you say that in response to, and what was said?
And then that,
Judge, I'm sorry, page 15, lines 10 through 12.
And what I'd ask you is if defense counsel can please show the deposition to the witness, because I believe he was explaining it, and it would further help the explanation if he would show him the
So
deposition.
let me leave the foundation, we'll go from there.
All right. Well, if you're going to impeach him with something, you do have to
I will.
allow him to look at
Oh,
the
I just
deposition.
want to make clear.
Very good.
Thank you. Did you say that Britany Jacobs had said, that's all I'm asking, yes or no? Did you say that Jacobs had said,
Your Honor, may we approach?
All right, Mr. Castelli, if Your Honor may I approach the witness? I'm going to show you page 15 of the deposition that you and I, when we met back in December 2018. Look at lines 7 through 12. If you don't mind, just look at that, read it to yourself. Let me know if that refreshes your recollection about the Q&A that we had back in December.
Okay.
Fair enough, all right. Now, do you recall the question being, line 10, when she stepped out of the vehicle, do you recall her saying anything, acknowledging, there's my man, anything like that? Do you recall saying answer? No. She was just saying, quote, wait until he comes out. My man's going to handle you. He's going to F you up, period, end quote, basically yelling at him.
Yes.
You did say that, right? Okay.
Yes.
At any point, do you recall, and if I can show you the entire deposition, no, that was just my interpretation. Did you ever clarify that?
Not at the time.
At the time. All right, fair enough. That was back in December. This errata sheet that was referenced, December of 2018 was a deposition. This errata sheet was filled on August 16th of 2019. Is that the sheet you're referring to?
Correct.
All right. 8 or 9 months later.
Correct.
All right. At the,
Your Honor, my objection would be this. It just looks like all of a sudden all these months went by when I think it
there's
needs...
no speaking objection. I object to
Okay.
any speaking objection.
Right.
I think-
Well,
Timing of when the depots were available.
all right. How about if we do that during redirect?
Okay.
Okay.
Do you recall, and again, Mr. Schaub was present during that meeting.
Yes.
Yes. And he asked you some follow-up questions. Do you recall that?
Yes.
All right. At any point, did you stop to say, that's not what I meant, or clarified it back then in December?
No.
All right. How often did you frequent that Circle A store?
Pretty frequently.
All right. Do you live in the community?
Not in that neighborhood anymore, but I did.
Oh, back then?
Yes.
All right. And so you've been there often, and did you ever participate in any rallies in support of the McGlockton family?
No.
No rallies, no functions, no vigils, anything like that?
No.
All right. Do you even know, I'm just going to ask, do you know when these depositions were prepared? Transcribed?
No.
But even if you're saying that that was your impression, you're telling this jury that was your impression, that Ms. Jacobs was letting Mr. Drejka know that my man is going to F you up.
That was
Now,
my...
my objection is speculation. It doesn't matter what was in Mr. Castelli's head.
That was your impression, correct?
It's my interpretation.
Fair enough. When you say that Mr. Drejka didn't appear to be shocked, you don't know Mr. Drejka, correct?
No.
You don't know what he's like before a violent push or after a violent push.
No.
But you did see the violent push.
Yes.
And at some point, though, you said that Mr. Drejka appeared to be kind of talking to himself, and your testimony is that that wasn't shock.
That was after he got up and had done several things very calmly and then started muttering to himself.
You have no medical training or anything like that?
Nope.
Let me back up a little bit now. When you arrived, you heard the yelling and the screaming, the back and forth, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree it was back and forth.
Not when I first pulled up. When I first pulled up, it was him yelling at a car.
All right. In fact, you use that term, yelling at a car, because even you couldn't tell if there was anybody inside the car.
No, I couldn't tell.
Right. The windows were tinted, and you couldn't see. Fair enough. But at some point, that window does roll down, and now it's not just some guy yelling at a car. It's two people yelling at each other.
Correct.
Correct? And you heard the passenger side say, mind your own effing business.
To that effect, it was a lot of screaming. I can't make exactly what was said. It was two people screaming at each other.
Is it your testimony you do not recall Ms. Jacobs saying, mind your effing business?
No.
You don't recall that, all right. Counsel for the state, if you could refer to page 12 of the deposition, lines 21 through 22. May I approach? All right, independently, you just said you don't recall her saying mind your business. I'll show you this again. Take a look at page 12, lines 21 through 22. Read it to yourself and let me know if that refreshes your recollection. Do you recall that answer?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jury, do you recall now whether or not she said, Ms. Jacobs said to Ms. Drejka, mind your own business?
Can I explain that statement?
Yes or no first?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Did you or did you not hear Ms. Jacobs say to Ms. Drejka, mind your effing business?
Not in those exact words. I heard the gist of the argument was mind your own business.
Go ahead now. If not mind your own business, what did you hear that gave you the impression that she was telling Ms. Drejka, mind your own business?
A screaming, a screaming match. It was going back and forth. It was a heated argument. So I was hearing bits and phrases. I didn't get the full sentences. It wasn't like I was trying to listen to everything at the time.
You would agree that Mr. Drejka never made any threats towards Ms. Britany Jacobs, correct?
He was in a threatening manner towards the car, pointing at the car, yelling, screaming. I would consider that threatening.
The question was, though, did you hear Mr. Drejka specifically utter any threats towards
No.
Ms. Jacobs?
No.
And you would agree that when you came inside, Mr. McGlockton rushed out of the store?
Yes.
And you would agree that he made a beeline for Mr. Drejka and shoved him so hard that he threw him 3 to 4 feet?
Yes.
Right? And then you would agree that Mr. Drejka landed hard on the ground?
Yes.
Right? And you would agree that based on your interpretation, it was about a 2-second delay from the time that the gun was removed and the shot was fired?
Yes.
And if I may approach the state. Judge, if I can have this marked for identification defense exhibit number 1. Okay. If I may approach the witness, Judge? Ready? Thank you. So I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 1. If you tell me if you take a look at it, tell me if you recognize what that image represents.
Yes.
What is it?
It's
Costelli, in that item, defense exhibit number 1, do you recognize the people in that photograph?
Yes, myself, victim, shooter, and the black woman.
All right. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I publish exhibit number 1.
Well, you're introducing it, right?
Yes.
We have no objection.
Well, I have to introduce it before you can publish it, so you're.
That's what I meant.
introducing it evidence, and then, then
Judge, may I, now, has it been accepted, Judge? I'm sorry.
it has been accepted, now you may publish.
And my fault, thank you. All right, Mr. Costelli, you indicated that you recognize one of these people, and if I may, is this you right here, sir?
Yes.
All right, and you would agree in that photograph, Ms. Jacobs is already out of the car,
Yes.
all right, and Mr. McGlockton is also hovering over Mr. Drejka.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd object to defense counsel's characterization.
I'll rephrase, Judge. Mr. McGlockton is near Mr. Drejka,
Yes.
and that's you in the background, so to speak, right?
Correct.
All right, in the video, you're wearing bright red shoes, correct?
Yes.
All right, and if I could ask, and maybe explain to the jury, where were you going?
Between the two cars.
I'm sorry?
Wait, where am I going in this frame? I think I'm going to my right.
Fair enough. Just before that, though, when you saw Mr. McGlockton come out of the store, rush into Mr. Drejka, push him down, what were you doing outside?
I thought I was going to be breaking up a fight. When I saw him go, that's when I came out of the store.
In terms, we've spoken of impressions. Your impression was there was going to be a fight.
Correct.
And if I could have a moment, Judge?
You ready?
Sir, did you, after the push, did you notice that Mr. McGlockton was lifting up his pants after the push?
It was before the push.
Before, okay. So, but you don't recall, even after the push, Mr. McGlockton lifting him up a second time?
No.
Do you recall Mr. McGlockton having his hands up before
No.
the shooting?
No.
Earlier you had said that there was, what you heard Mr. Drejka say about family members and all that, or about the parking spot. Did you hear him say something about his own family member being handicapped?
Yeah.
All right, one more, Judge, if I may. Okay. Mr. Costelli, thank you, sir. Thank you. Any
Direct examination?
Yes, time alone, Your Honor.
You may.
All right, I want to just briefly revisit the deposition. The first opportunity that you had to read the deposition was just last Friday, correct?
Yes.
And then as soon as you realized the error, you let everybody know, correct?
Yes.
All right, and even before the trial started, you let everybody know?
Yes.
All right, it wasn't something that was hidden from anybody?
No.
And may I approach the witness with the deposition?
Yes.
Again, same pages that the defense counsel referred to. This is page 15, lines 10, 11, and 12. If you just look at that, when you were explaining your answer to the defense counsel just a couple minutes ago, you said basically this is what it was, correct?
Yes.
Judge and judges, this conversation, what's written in black and white, Judge?
That's going to be my point of why I'm asking these questions.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, so that's what you told the defense counsel, correct?
Yes.
All right, and it's exactly what you said in the deposition as well, correct?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that you thought that you were going to break up a fight, correct?
Yes.
All right, and that's based on what you witnessed by everything in the parking lot, correct?
Yes.
Did you have to actually break up a fight?
No.
Why didn't you have to break up a fight?
It got physical before that. I mean, there was so much distance, I didn't have to get between them. Once I saw the gun, I got out of the way.
Okay, there wasn't a fight because the defendant brought out a gun, right?
Objection leading, Judge.
Yes.
Objection leading, move to strike the answer, Judge.
We don't do striking answers.
Curative instruction, Judge.
They don't do it here, okay?
Curative
We don't
instruction.
strike answers from a transcript.
All right, it's sustained, but go ahead.
Was there a fight that took place between the black male and the defendant?
No.
Okay. Did the black male take out a firearm?
Yes.
Once that happened, was everything basically over?
Yes.
Okay. But what did happen after he took the gun out?
He shot him.
There was no fight then, was there?
No.
I don't have anything further.
All right, anything else from the defense?
Judge, just one clarification, I promise you. So this jury is clear, Mr. Castelli. When you said basically yelling at him, isn't that what you said, basically yelling at him?
In the deposition you're referring
Yeah.
to? Yeah, I was saying that the sentence before that is basically saying he's going to F you up was the interpretation. That's why I said basically at the end.
But you didn't say basically he threatened her, or she threatened him, it's basically yelling at him.
No, I said he's going to F you up basically is exactly what I said. He's going to
Would
F
you like
you
to
up.
read it again?
He's going to F you up basically is what isn't that what's written?
Judge, can I approach again?
Okay.
Page 15, lines 10 through 12. Once again, sir, just read to yourself and read to the jury if you said basically.
He's going
Yelling at
to
him?
F you up basically yelling at him is what I said.
Fair enough. That's exactly what you said, basically yelling at him.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Good, thank you. All right, sir, you may step down. Okay. All right, I think we'll go ahead and take a 10-minute comfort break at this point, and then we'll be back. All right, thank you. All right, we'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
You should hear it, but if you take the gain, you know where the gain is? Bring the gain all the way. If there's no high frequency, there was a humming earlier. 1, 2, check, 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 check. So there should be number 4. Number 4. So there's no humming when you blast it out. Check 1, 2. Number 5. Check 1, 2, check, check. 5. Okay. Check 1, 2. So this is 4. 4. And no high pitch with the gain up all the way too. Okay, great.
the jury?
Yes, Your Honor, may I have one moment? We've reached an agreement on something.
Okay. All right, so not quite.
We don't intend to recall Ms. Jacobs, and she is going to, they've granted okay for her to watch.
Very good.
Yeah, we have no objection to that, Your Honor.
Are we ready, State?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, we're ready, please. Very good. Welcome back, members of the jury. State, please call your next witness.
Yes, the state would call Vicky Conrad.
If you'll stand here, face the clerk, and raise your right hand and take the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Ma'am, if you'll step this way, have a seat, pull yourself up to the microphone, and speak in a loud and clear voice for the court, please.
Good afternoon, Ms. Conrad. Will you please state your full name?
Vicky Conrad,
And where do you live?
1905 Coles Road.
And how long, is that in Pinellas County?
Yes, it is, Clearwater.
Matter of fact, do you live close to the Circle A convenience store?
Yeah, about a block and a half.
And how long have you lived at Pinellas County?
25 years.
And what do you do for a living?
I have vacation rentals.
And how long have you, do you own an inn on Sunset Point Road?
Yes, yes, I do.
And how long have you owned and operated that inn?
7 years.
And what did you do prior to getting into the hospitality business?
I was an optometric technician.
So you indicated you live near the store.
Yes.
How often do you go to that store?
Maybe twice a week.
Do you know the employees of that store?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the owner, Ali?
Yes, I do.
What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about July 19th with you. July 19th of last year. Did you, in fact, go to the Circle A convenience store?
Yes,
And how did you get there?
I drove.
And who were you with?
Just myself.
What, since we've seen videos, we're going to see videos, what type of car were you driving that?
A silver Hyundai Sonata 2013.
Could you tell us, why were you going to the store?
I was going to pick up a bottle of wine.
All right. Could you tell us when you pulled up to the store, did you immediately notice something going on in the parking lot?
Yes, there was an argument between a man and a woman in a car. The woman was in the car, and I just kind of sat there for a minute and just kind of listened to what was going on to see if it was safe to get out.
All right. Could you tell, had you ever seen these people before?
No.
All right, so
No.
let's break it down. There was a female.
Mhm.
She white or black?
She was black.
There was a male. Was he white or black?
White.
All right. So a white male and a black female.
Yes.
Where was the black female?
She was sitting in her car.
Where was the white male?
He was outside of her car, about a foot away from the passenger window.
All right, so you could see how far away he was?
Yes.
And about how far would you say he was?
About a foot.
All right. This argument that was going on, was it loud enough for you to hear it?
Yes.
Could you tell us, of those two individuals, the male and the female, who was the louder of the two?
The male.
How did he appear to you?
He was authoritative, kind of, he's argumentative.
All right. Did he appear to be upset?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Did you later learn the name of the black female?
Yes, her name was Britany.
All right. Did you ever know her? Did you ever meet her?
No.
Did you later know the name of the male?
No, no, I didn't know his name.
All right. Had you ever met him before?
No.
All right. Did you later learn his name to be Michael Drejka?
Yes, yes.
All right. But you never met him?
No, no.
Do you recall what type of car she was in?
She was in a white four-door car. I'm not sure what type of car it was, what the make and model was. It was like maybe a Cutlass or maybe something like that. It was a bigger car.
All right. Eventually, did you determine it was okay to go into the store?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
And did you go into the store?
yes, I did.
When you got into the store, did you, I think Mustafa was working?
Yes.
Did you warn Mustafa about the altercation that was taking place out in the parking lot?
I didn't. Someone else who was coming in the door just as I was told him that there was a problem in the parking lot.
Was it the gentleman that was waiting
Yes.
to testify, Mr. Castelli?
Yes.
All right. So you didn't feel the need to say anything? What did you do when you entered the store?
I went to the back section where the wine is.
All right. When you entered the store, did you notice people inside that store when you first came in?
Yes, there were a few people in there milling about. I didn't pay much attention to them.
Was there a young man and a child?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall where they were? They at the counter?
Yes, I think they were. Yes, they were.
All right. So you went into the store, and where's the wine kept?
When you walk in, if you go to the way back corner on the left, go and make a left all the way down the back corner.
All right. Did you go back there?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you find the need to go to the front of the store?
Yes.
Can you tell us why you went to the front of the store?
I heard Britany yelling, "Help me, help me, help us. Can someone help us?"
Did you, in fact, see what the issue was?
Yes.
Okay, what did you see?
I saw the victim on the ground bleeding, and he looked like he was dying.
All right. What did you do when you saw that?
I was telling her to compress on the wound, and I got a T-shirt off the rack and gave it to her and trying to get her to compress on the wound.
All right. At this time, Britany Jacobs was present?
Yes.
Mustafa?
Yes.
And the 5-year-old boy?
Yes.
All right. Did Miss Jacobs attempt to do that? To apply the pressure with the T-shirt?
Trying to, but no, I don't think she really did.
All right. Did there come a time when you eventually, and where did you get this T-shirt?
Off the rack in the store.
All right.
It's a rack.
So did you open it and give it to Miss
Yes.
Jacobs? All right. Did there come a time then when you left the store?
Yes.
All right. Why did you leave the store?
She asked me to go check on her kids.
All right. And did you, in fact, were you able to get to the children?
I was able to get to them, but not get unlocked. I could see them, but I couldn't get the door unlocked to the car.
All right, so the car was locked.
Yes.
When you went outside, did you see that white male that had been involved in the argument?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Describe what he was saying or how he was acting.
I looked out the door and I asked him, can I come out and check on the kids? It's very hot and the windows rolled up, and he said, sure, yes, come on out, everything's fine. They have it on video, I'm just waiting for the police. And then he just very calmly, he stated everything very calm, almost proudly.
All right. After he said that, so you weren't able to get to the kids?
No.
All right. Did you then go back into the store
Yes.
to see about getting the kids?
Yes.
Okay. Eventually, was the car moved?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And when the car was moved, did you go outside?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about that. So what happened?
I went in, tried to get the keys from Britany to unlock the car, and I think I didn't get the keys. Everything happened so fast, and I took her 5-year-old with me out of the store, and just walked around the parking lot with him, trying to calm him down. And then someone came out and unlocked the car door, and I put him in the car with the other children.
All right. So you were able to reunite him with his brothers
Yes.
and sisters. Brother and sister. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Eventually, did the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office arrive?
Yes.
All right. And when they arrived, did you speak with detectives?
Yes.
Did they take a statement from you?
Yes, they did.
Where did they take that statement?
They're in the parking lot.
When did they take it?
It was maybe an hour after the shooting.
All right, and
We waited. They asked us all to wait.
I guess they tape recorded your statement.
Yes.
And then after that, we met at the state attorney's office.
Yes.
And we talked and had discussed what information you had.
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? I have no further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
Now, you were going to the convenience store to purchase a bottle of wine, correct?
Yes.
Where were you coming from at that time?
My home.
All right. And when you arrived, was Mr. Drejka and Miss Jacobs already engaged in conversation?
Yes.
All right. So you came up and you already heard some dispute between the
Yes.
two parties. And they were arguing back and forth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you remember you gave, as Mr. Schaub just pointed out, you gave a statement about an hour, a recorded statement about an hour after the incident, correct?
Yes.
And did you ever see a transcript of that recorded statement?
I don't think so.
Okay.
think so.
Well, today you said that Mr. Drejka was the louder of the two. You never told the police officer that was investigating that, did you?
I don't think they asked me.
Okay.
I don't think they asked me
So that would be a
question.
yes. You did not tell the investigating
Yes, I didn't tell them that.
Okay. In fact, you said that they were arguing back and forth. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Drejka, he was wearing sunglasses, correct?
At that point, his back was to me, so I really couldn't see at that point if he had glasses on. I pulled up, and he was facing the car, her car, so I saw the back of his head.
Okay, so you didn't see the front of him at that time. Okay, you said he was a good foot away from the window of the vehicle, correct?
About a foot.
So he wasn't hovering or directly up to the vehicle, correct?
Oh, he was close to it. He was close to it.
Well, a foot. is a
Yes,
foot.
about a foot. To me,
Okay.
that's close.
So you didn't see him actually touch the vehicle, correct?
No.
You didn't see him make contact with Miss Jacobs, correct?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And Miss Jacobs was shouting back at him, correct?
She was arguing back with him to, mind your own business.
Okay. Did she use any curse words?
Not that I can recall. No.
Was it possible?
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't think she said anything. She was just kind of leave me alone,
What about
kind
Mr.
of thing.
Drejka? Was he saying any curse words?
I don't think so.
Okay. So he was upset because she was in a handicap parking space,
Correct, yes.
Did you hear the conversation, any of the details of the conversation?
I only waited a few seconds. I just kind of observed the situation and then quickly went into the store.
Okay. So that would be a no, you didn't hear any of the details of the conversation?
I didn't sit around and listen, no.
Okay. Now, the vehicle that you observed that the black female was in, Miss Jacobs.
Yes.
That car had tinted windows, do you recall?
Her window was down. I believe the windows were tinted,
Okay.
but hers
And
was down.
you yourself didn't observe any children in the vehicle at that time, correct?
At that time, no.
All right. So you go into the store, you pick up your bottle of wine, I assume?
I didn't get a bottle of wine.
Okay.
It's-
Is the commotion started inside the store at that point?
Yes.
Okay. You indicated that Mr. Castelli, who you later learned was Mr. Castelli, the white male gentleman, had come into the store and made a statement, correct?
Yes.
And he said, hey, you got a problem out here, correct?
Yes.
He didn't say there's an altercation, there's a fight, there's an argument. He said, hey, you got a problem out here, correct? Okay, and you distinctly remember that, right?
Yes.
And in
yes.
fact, you told the investigating officer on a recorded statement, that very statement, hey, you got a problem out here. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when that statement was made, what did Mr. McGlockton do? Didn't he immediately rush out of the store?
I was in the back corner, so I didn't really see that part of it.
Okay. Did you see that he left his 4 or 5-year-old child inside the store?
At that point, no.
All right. At some point, did you notice that the child was alone in the store?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
And you didn't see what happened outside the store?
No, I didn't.
You never even heard a shot, correct?
No.
All right. So you don't know what actually occurred with Mr. Drejka and Mr. McGlockton outside the store. Is
No.
that fair?
At that point, no. No.
Okay. Well, at any point, isn't that
No.
true?
True.
All right. I mean, you may have seen the video later, but
Yes.
you yourself did not eyewitness anything, correct, outside the store?
Yes, correct.
With respect to the shooting. Okay. Now, you said that Mr. Drejka, afterward, you went outside and he seemed very calm.
Yes.
Was he polite?
He's very matter of fact. Very
Okay.
matter of fact.
Well, he wasn't yelling or shouting or angry, correct?
Exactly. No, he's very calm. Very
Okay.
calm.
And I heard you say the word, he almost seemed proud. How do you get proud from calm?
He just was, when
Because
I asked him,
didn't-
I looked out the door and I asked, is it okay if I come out? And he was just very, very just, calm. And, like, I don't know, it's just the feeling that I got.
And he even made the statement to you, everything's on video, correct?
Correct.
So he knew there were video cameras there, and he knew that that would prove his innocence to you, correct? Did he make that statement to you?
We didn't talk about it. At that point, I hadn't seen anything. I'm only going by assumptions that he was even the shooter. I looked out the door and asked, is it okay that I come out? And he was very calm and very collected about what he was saying.
Okay. Did you notice his shirt was torn?
I didn't notice. I was upset at that point. I mean, there was a man that's dying and a child there. I was upset at that point. I was very distraught at that point.
Okay. Miss Jacobs, apparently, you noticed that the vehicle had been moved, correct?
Yes.
So the vehicle was in the handicap spot when you entered the store, and just minutes later when you exited the store after the incident, the vehicle was gone from that spot. Isn't that true?
Yes.
So did you talk to Miss Jacobs about that? Say, why would you stop to move the car?
No.
Did you think that was odd at all, that she would move the car before going into the store?
No, it wasn't a thought that went through my head.
Well, as you sit here today, don't you find that odd that she would move the car before going into the store?
There were children in the car. It might have been trying to get the kids out. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, well, the kids didn't come
Her
out,
family
didn't they?
was there. I really didn't know who moved the car. Maybe her parents were there. I know they were there quickly.
Who? Her parents?
Somebody's parents were there. Either the man who had gotten shot or her parents. I'm not sure whose parents, but somebody's family was there quickly.
Okay. Do you know how they arrived, how they were notified?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
And you said they were quickly there, like within minutes?
It was after the victim was shot. I know that. After the ambulance had gotten there, or EMTs or whoever. I'm not sure it was an ambulance, but somebody professional was there working on him.
Okay. The children were actually in the vehicle, and you went and aided the children in the vehicle, correct? You checked on
I tried to,
them.
but I couldn't get the car. I couldn't get them to unlock the car door.
Later, were you able to get the car open?
Someone else opened the car door, and I put the little boy in with the other girl, the two girls.
Okay, so you did assist with the children. You knew that they were still in the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where did the vehicle get moved to?
It got moved from the side of the store to the front of the store.
Okay. You asked Miss Jacob for the keys, but she couldn't give them to you?
She was very distraught. This is, you know,
I understand,
horrible
but that's
time
a
in her
yes or no
life.
response. Did she give you the keys?
No, no.
Okay. And you said Mr. Drejka was kind of babbling, correct?
No, he was very clear.
You never said babbling?
I don't. Not in like a mumbling, babbling, mumbling kind of way.
He was. That you used in your statement.
I'm sorry.
Babbling.
He was very clear.
Okay. Well,
Clear.
why would you say an hour after the incident? So he's just kind of babbling.
Can you tell me what page and line you're on?
This is on the transcript of the interview, page 10 of 15.
Can I ask what was I asked?
Well, I can
What
show you
was
your
that?
statement.
Or just what was I asked to? In the beginning, he was in the argument, you know, to me.
No.
Okay.
This is afterward.
Okay.
You said, yeah, he was babbling. He said they got it all on tape, you know. Come on out.
It was just a term that I used. He was very clear, because babbling can have different meanings to me.
That babbling and clear are inconsistent with each other?
It depends
Clear would
on-
imply that he was very coherent, very methodical in his speech. Babbling would imply that he was very stuttering and jittery. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Not really, no. Babbling to me would be going on. He's babbling on. That could be clearly or mumbling. But he
Well,
was
it's
very
your
clear.
term. You use
He
babbling.
was very clear. I meant going on. Babbling on, like on and on.
Okay. So
But
he was
what he
clear
said
but
was very
babbling.
clear.
Is that what you're saying today?
He was very clear.
Okay. But he was babbling.
If he was unclear, I wouldn't have gone out of the store.
My question is, you used the word babbling.
She's explained it, Your Honor.
All right. And he did indicate at the video again, correct?
Yes.
He kept talking about it. It's all on video. It's all on video.
It's on video.
All right. Now, he was upset because she used the handicap spot, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that from the conversation, correct?
Yes.
You overheard that part?
That's what I overheard, yes.
And she was basically saying, mind your own business. And he was saying, did he explain that he had a family member who was handicapped? Did you hear that part?
Yes.
Okay, so you
Yes.
did hear that portion of the conversation. And he wasn't being threatening, correct? He never said, any threatening words to her, correct?
I would have been threatened if I
That's
was
not,
in my
ma'am,
card.
That's not the question I asked. Not
Okay.
what you would
He
have done.
was. He was being threatening.
And,
He
and
wasn't
how
being-
was he being threatening?
He wasn't being physically threatening.
Witness have the opportunity to explain her answer. She can.
Well, I think she is right now before you interrupted, so.
He was being intimidating. He wasn't being physically but he was being intimidating.
Did he ever? You just raised your fist. Did
I
he
was
ever
saying
do
he
that?
wasn't. I was saying he wasn't being intimidating, like physically intimidating, but he was being intimidating in. He was trying to intimidate her.
All right,
I
well,
believe.
please
I believe.
listen
If
to
I
my-
was in a car with my kids and somebody was at my window, I would be a little bit intimidated. I would be intimidated.
Well, we're not asking
Okay.
about what you would be. Okay, we're
I can only
asking
go
what
on
you
what I know.
factually observed at the time, not your opinion as to what you observed. What you factually observed. Can you do that?
Well, isn't threatening kind of an opinion? So,
It is an opinion.
all right, so then you're asking her what her opinion is. If
No,
it's
I'm
threatening
asking
or
her
not, right?
what it is that she's made. She already made the statement in front of the jury, so there wasn't an opportunity to object. My question is explain how he was threatening factually. Tell me what facts. You said you showed your fist going up. Did you do that?
By approaching a car that it's occupied, that is, and telling somebody to move, and you're not a police officer, you're not, any type of security person, it's threatening. It would be threatening.
Okay, so just merely telling someone that they're in a handicapped space and complaining about it, you view that as threatening.
To go on and on, to continue going on about it, yes.
Okay.
Is intimidating.
But you never saw him raise his fist, correct?
No.
You never saw him make any physical contact with the vehicle or Miss Jacobs,
No, I
correct?
didn't. No, I
You
didn't.
never saw him or overheard him make any verbal communication of a threat. I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to hit
No.
you, I'm going to punch you, I'm going to fight you, anything like that.
I didn't hear that, no.
Okay. Did you hear Miss Jacobs say, my man's going to come out here and handle you or F you up?
No, I didn't hear that.
Nothing
No.
like that at all?
I don't think no, I didn't hear, I know I didn't hear that.
Okay.
I didn't hear that.
So were you already at some point you went in the store while they were still continuing this?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Could you hear inside the store?
No.
So inside the store, you couldn't hear any argument?
No.
Nothing at all, correct?
Nope.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Any regret? My wife says I babble. So, what's your meaning of the word babble?
To me, like, go on and on. To go on.
You indicated intimidating.
Yes.
He was raising his voice, right?
Yes, his voice was raised.
And he was the louder of the two.
Yes.
You have a moment, Your Honor? Yes. I have nothing for you.
All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, ma'am, you may step down. Thank you.
Eric Forcade.
Sir, if you could stand over here next to me, please. Stand here, face the clerk, raise your right hand and take the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Sir, if you'll step this way, have a seat, pull yourself up to the microphone, and speak in a loud and clear voice for the court, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
How's it going, sir?
State your name, Mark.
Good afternoon. Can you please turn to the jury and state your first and last name and spell them both for the court reporter?
Yes, sir. My name is Eric Forcade, E-R-I-C-F-O-R-C-A-D-E.
And how are you employed, sir?
I am a sergeant with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
Going on about 14 years now.
Have you been assigned any specialized units within the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. For about 4 years, I was also a trainer for the Sheriff's Office. Basically, it was a separate unit of which we have the deputies come in and we teach them all the high liability stuff like firearms, defensive tactics, shooting, stuff like that.
So 15 years total, 4 years in training?
Yes, sir.
Any other units you've been assigned to?
The FTO unit as well.
Okay, when you say FTO, what does FTO stand for?
That's the Field Training Unit.
Okay. And as a member of the Field Training Unit, what were your duties and responsibilities?
We're basically responsible for whenever you have a new hire deputy, they come out with us and they ride with another deputy who then teaches them how to do the job, paperwork-wise, law-wise, how to actually do what they're doing. And then they obviously document their proficiency at doing that. And when they get good enough, we release them to become a solo deputy.
All right. And are there different phases for that?
Yes, sir. There's 4 phases.
Back on July 19th of 2018, what unit were you assigned to?
I was in Squad 7 as a supervisor. I was logged on as S70 Alpha.
And was that the FTO squad, the
Yes,
field
sir.
training squad? In the afternoon hours around between 3:15, 3:30, was there a high priority call?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how are you notified as a member of the Sheriff's Office that there's a high priority call?
Typically, when we get dispatched to a call, it'll just come out either via our laptops on the CAD system, and they'll just dispatch it out, and they'll have people already assigned to it. Sometimes we'll have it where radio will actually come on and just give us a verbal indication that there's some kind of call out there. And then when we have like really high priority calls, they'll have like an alert tone that goes out, and it's basically like a beeping noise to let everybody know, hey, pay attention, there's now something really big coming out that have a lot of people go to.
Okay, and this particular shooting incident that we're going to talk about, did it have those alert tones?
Yes, sir.
All right, so your attention was drawn to this particular call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you heard those alert tones come out, what did you do?
I put on my emergency equipment and automatically assign myself to that call. Basically, you have a couple ways you can get assigned to a call. You can obviously hop on the radio and tell radio, hey, put me on that call, if they're not already dispatched on it. There's also a self-assign button on your laptop computer that, particularly for high priority calls, they don't want to have 20 deputies hopping on the radio, to put me on that call, because now you're tying up the radio where they're trying to give out information. So they have a button that you can push that would self-assign, so you can just hop on it and go.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Were you one of the first supervisors on scene?
Yes, sir.
Were you alone in your vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what type of vehicle do you have? What did you drive over to that location?
2013 Chevy Tahoe.
And emergency lights on it on the top?
Yes, sir.
All right, probably members of the jury have seen that particular cruiser all around Pinellas County?
Yes, the only difference between my cruiser and a normal cruiser is that it's unmarked. So it's just a plain white cruiser, but obviously it has all of the, again, the emergency package on there with the lights and sirens.
Okay, and you went lights and sirens to the call?
Yes, sir.
All right, and was that call at the Circle A food store?
Yes, sir.
Now, you don't have to know the exact amount of time, but just approximately, how much time did it take you to get from where you were when you heard the alert tones come out to the Circle A store?
When the call originally came out, I was at Sunset Point, US 19, around that area. I traveled directly down Sunset Point to the location of the occurred, and I would guesstimate 3 to 4 minutes max.
Okay. And you indicated again, you were alone.
Yes, sir.
When you pulled into the Circle A parking lot, where did you park your vehicle?
I parked pretty much directly in front of it at a slight angle, pointed off towards the front door area of the store.
Okay, and you're familiar with that store?
Yes, sir.
May I approach the witness? You may. I'm going to show you a series of exhibits that we're going to be talking about. At first, I'm showing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 9. This is A through D. Do you recognize this series of photographs?
Yes, sir.
All right, and there's obviously 4 photographs on this board.
Yes.
Is this the Circle A food store?
Yes.
All right, the front entrance as well as the parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Do these pictures fairly and accurately show the Circle A food store when you arrived on scene?
Yes, sir.
At this time, if there's no objection from the defense counsel, the state would ask to move States Exhibit 9A through D into evidence.
Any objection?
If we look at it, I apologize, we looked at it earlier, but if I could just see exactly which
You
one.
want to come up and look at all 3 boards?
Please?
All right, so if there's no objection to any of the 3, you can just move all 3 into evidence, and then you can go ahead and publish them and describe what they are and all that.
The state would ask then, since there's no objection from the defense counsel, to move into evidence States Exhibit 10, A through C, and Exhibits 12, A and B.
All right, and also 9A through D?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, they're admitted. There's no objection.
May you have the witness step down?
You may.
We're a professional outfit. This is your pointer.
Yes, sir. Well, not really professional. I'm going to end up holding it in a second.
There you go. That just pulled it.
All right, this is States Exhibit 9, A through D. Top left photographs. I show the front of the Circle A store.
Yes, sir.
All right, and looking at B, is that obviously going to be the side of the store, and that's the handicap parking spot?
Yes, sir.
Looking at any of these photographs, first of all, can everybody see? Looking at these photographs, just approximately where did you pull in?
Proximity-wise, it's kind of hard to say from that angle that we have here. Pretty much where you see this white cruiser right here, that's kind of roughly where my vehicle, that may even be my vehicle, I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay, and it's facing the front doors then?
Yes, sir.
All right. When you arrived on scene, were there any other deputies that were there before you?
Yes, sir, Deputy Har.
And beside Deputy Har, you know if anyone else was there?
Not initially.
All right. And what did you see when you arrived? What was Deputy Har doing?
When I arrived on scene, Deputy Har was basically standing in the area right here by the front door. He had his side to the door, and he was facing this direction over here towards the handicap spot, but along the front of the store.
And did you see if he was communicating or interacting with anyone?
Yes, sir. He had his gun out of his holster, and he was pointed off at the defendant, who was sitting on the curb pretty much in this area right around here.
Okay. And when you arrived on scene, could you note what the defendant was doing?
Yes, he was sitting down, and as he was sitting down, obviously, as you can imagine, this is a very low seat for him. So when he sits down, his knees are kind of up high, and he has his elbows kind of resting on his knees, having his hands up, trying to comply.
Okay. The person that we're talking about, do you see him in the courtroom here today?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you just point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
Yes, sir. He's wearing a light blue shirt with a light blue tie.
Okay. May the record reflect the witness identified Mr. Drejka?
We shall so reflect.
All right, so you saw Deputy Har having contact with the defendant. Did you help Deputy Har in any way?
Yes, sir. I was the one who actually took the defendant into custody.
All right, so you placed handcuffs on him?
Yes, sir.
Was the defendant searched?
He was. After we initially, when I first showed up, obviously he was sitting down, as we would typically do for something like this, especially because of the nature of the crime and the threat of a weapon. I had him prone down on his belly, which basically means I had him lay down, face first on the pavement right there. I placed him in handcuffs, and then we stood him up and searched him and took him over to another cruiser.
Okay. Did you personally search him, or did another deputy search him?
Another deputy actually searched him. About that time I had him in custody and we were standing him up. That's when Deputy Smythe showed up on scene.
Okay, and he's the one that performed the actual search?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and did you see the defendant's vehicle?
Yes, sir.
All right, did you notice where it was parked?
Yes, sir.
All right, now let's talk about the spots for just a second. In photograph B, you can see the blue painting on the parking stops, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, indicative of a handicap spot?
Yes, sir.
All right, are you familiar with the traffic laws?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you note the handicap sign that you can see in the picture up top?
Yes, sir.
All right, just state statute-wise, is that sign a legal sign, so to speak?
No, sir.
All right, and why not?
Basically, the way Florida state statute reads, the sign itself has to obviously have the wheelchair symbol on there, and there has to be some very specific language written on that sign, of which this sign does not have that language.
All right, now let's look down at photographs C and D. Do you see the defendant's vehicle in those photographs?
Yes, sir.
All right, and when you arrived at the scene, obviously these photographs are after the scene was secured with crime scene tape, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you can see that there's parking spots available?
Yes.
Did the defendant park his vehicle in a parking spot?
No, sir.
And looking at C and D, is that the defendant's vehicle, that silver four-door car?
Yes, sir.
And next to the handicap spot, you can see a ramp?
Yes, sir.
And this box, is that for the handicap spot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where the defendant's parked, and I don't want to be the one to point, can you point to the defendant's vehicle in C and D?
Yes, sir. It's going to be the silver Pathfinder.
Okay. That silver Pathfinder, is that in effect also blocking that area?
The way it's positioned right now, it's obviously not going to park. It's not parked directly over the diagonals, of course, but it is going to be in close proximity to where the handicap access would be.
Okay. I mean, obviously, no one can walk through the defendant's
sir.
vehicle.
No, sir.
Okay. Was he parked in a marked parking spot?
No, sir.
Was he basically parked in the middle of the parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's talk about what happens when you arrive to any a scene.
Okay.
Any scene, particularly one like this.
Sure.
What's the job of responding deputies? When you first get to a call like this, can you walk us through the order of how this takes place?
Sure. So obviously when we show up to a call like this, particularly again when we have one where a weapon's involved, our first priority is officer safety, safety of the public, because obviously we don't know what's going on. So of course when we first get there, as Deputy Har does, he finds who we have identified, at least via the call notes that we've got, to be the suspect, and obviously gets him at gunpoint. Once we secure him, now we've got him secured, so we have the suspect secured, but we also have to worry about any kind of weapons or anything else involved, because if going into a gun, we want to verify that the gun has been located and we know where it's at. Once we've got that scene secure, we then want to obviously now have preservation of life. So we want to have it where we have FDs show up, or if deputies are there and they're available to obviously assist.
Since he's testifying in response to a question, maybe he could return to the stand and not stand in front of the jury unless there's more photo reference.
We do have some more photos.
Okay.
So it's up to them where he stands.
Okay. And when you say FD, what's FD stand for?
Fire department.
All right. So you indicated, so you're looking to make sure that the victim is treated?
Yes, sir. So again, we have scene safety first, and then once we do that, now it's preservation of life. We want to make sure the victim is treated. Once we do that, and we have FD on there, and again, we have to understand there's multiple deputies that are showing up, so we've got multiple things that are happening at once. But once we get scene secure, we get FD on scene to treat the patient. Now we're going to start looking to see if we can identify any witnesses to make sure they don't accidentally walk off, or they start colluding and obviously got statements that aren't correct. We want to also preserve that scene and identify where the scene's at, and rope that area off and make sure that we don't contaminate that scene any more so than may have already happened.
Okay, so when you say rope it off, in B, C, and D, you can see some yellow crime scene tape. Is that what you use to rope off a
Yes,
particular area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's to prevent members of the public from going into that area?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you have an opportunity to walk around the scene?
Yes, sir.
All right. And once it's secured, is that when you'd walk around?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, like I said, once our main priority is getting the suspect or make sure the scene's safe, and then after that, now we can kind of calm down and figure out what else is going on.
Okay. Was there a point in time when you were walking around the scene that you located some evidence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the evidence that you found?
Because again, initially when we showed up, we didn't know where the actual shooting took place at. We had Mr. Drejka was outside, and we had the victim was laying inside the store, obviously bleeding inside. So we weren't sure if the incident occurred inside or if it occurred outside. So as we start talking to witnesses, we're able to ascertain that it occurs outside around this parking spot as far as the handicap parking. Once we do that, and Mr. Drejka talks about, we ask him where the firearm's at, and we find it, we're able to identify it as a semi-auto weapon. Because of that, we now know there's a shell casing laying someplace outside, hopefully in this area, where the shooting occurred at. So at that point, we start walking around to see if we can identify and find the shell casing, and that's when Deputy Berry finds the shell casing.
Once Deputy Berry finds the shell casing, does he bring it to your attention?
Yes, sir.
Do you mark it with anything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what's the reason that you did that?
Because again, it's a parking lot, it's a very small casing, and again, when we first showed up, we didn't know where the crime scene took place or where the crime actually occurred at. So you had multiple cruisers, you had fire department engines in there, you had Sunstar showing up. So again, this parking lot is quickly filling up with vehicles. So as these vehicles are there, we want to make sure that somebody doesn't accidentally drive over to get stuck inside the tire or whatnot. So we try to mark it and then start moving people away from that scene to verify that it's not going to damage any kind of evidence we found.
This is State's Exhibit 10A through C. What did you use to mark the shell casing that you located?
Initially, again, we're just looking very quickly. I put the little Kickstart Mountain Dew green can next to it just to be more of a highlight to show where it was at. Eventually, another deputy grabbed one of these little cases over here and put it on top of it.
Okay, and then we're looking at State's 10B. That gives you the general idea of where that shell casing was located in relation to the defendant's vehicle and that rectangle spot we were referring to.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did forensic technicians come to the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and just briefly, forensic technicians, what are their duties and responsibilities?
To basically process the scene for any type of evidence, and again, maybe photos. It's going to be collecting evidence. It's fingerprinting possibly, depending on what they've got going on.
Okay, the CSI people that people see on TV, I guess,
Yes,
right?
sir.
All right. This evidence marker, number 1, would that be something that would be placed down by maybe a member of the forensic team?
Yes, sir.
All right. Looking at A and then C, do you see the shell casing in there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you collect that shell casing or someone else did?
Somebody else did, sir.
All right. And you're not responsible for doing fingerprinting or anything like that, videos,
Yes, sir.
photographs? All right. Now, you indicated that someone had spoken to the defendant, and either yourself or another deputy, about
Yes,
the
sir.
location of the firearm?
Yes, sir. Again, we were just, obviously, he seemed very compliant on scene, so we just asked him very quickly, hey, where's the firearm at? Because while he's compliant now, and obviously we eventually find out where the firearm's at, we just hate to have it where somebody tosses it, and now it's laying in a bush somewhere where a kid could find it or whatnot. So we want to obviously see if we can find where the weapon's at.
Okay. And were you told where the firearm was?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was it in a particular vehicle?
Yes, it was inside the defendant's vehicle.
Okay, so that's the four-wheel vehicle that we already saw in this
Yes, sir,
exhibit.
the Pathfinder.
All right. Did you look inside the vehicle?
I did.
All right. Did you actually go inside or just look in the window?
No, sir, just looked inside the window to verify the gun was there.
All right, I'm showing you it's already been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 12A and B. Do you recognize the object in these photos?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is the object that we're looking at?
It's going to be the semi-automatic weapon that I found inside the vehicle.
Okay, and in looking at these photographs, is this exactly where it was located?
Yes, sir, with
Right.
a slide lock back, just like that.
All right, so this is exactly how it looked?
Yes, sir.
All right, again, you didn't enter into the car to remove the firearm?
No, sir.
Go back to thank you.
Get back to the point.
Thank you. Were you responsible for conducting any interviews with the defendant in this case, or that was someone else's responsibility?
Again, besides the initial contact I had with him, I had no further discussions with the defendant.
Did detectives from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office respond out to the scene?
Yes, sir.
Right. And did you brief them about what was going on?
Yes, sir.
Right. And that because you were one of the on-scene supervisors?
Yes, sir.
Right. And by briefing them, don't tell us exactly what you said in this case, but what does briefing mean?
Basically, what the supervisor is typically responsible for is that when they show up on scene, especially against something major like this, they're going to go around and figure out who all the people involved are, obviously get their names, kind of get a brief synopsis of how they're involved, identify any kind of locations that are particular to that situation, and then when homicide shows up to the scene, they're going to provide them with all that information. That way, they at least have a basic understanding of who knows what, when, where, and how, so that when they go forth with their investigation, they know how to do that.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Very good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
When you responded to this call, you were the supervising officer on the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're a sergeant, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Sergeant Forcade, you arrived on the scene. What was the first thing you observed when you arrived on the scene?
Was Deputy Harr and the defendant in front of the store?
Okay, and the defendant was on the ground, you said, seated?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and he was very cooperative, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very compliant with all your requests, correct?
Yes, sir.
Told you immediately where the firearm was when you asked, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he had actually secured that firearm in his vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And he made some voluntary statements to you.
Yes, sir.
And his voluntary statements included that...
Objection, hearsay.
Can we approach?
Yes.
He did give a statement to you, though, at the scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And based on that statement, you directed either yourself or others to obtain a video from the store?
I'm not sure if I directed, I'm sure at some point, because we saw there was video cameras outside the store, so I'm sure at some point I directed somebody to check to see if they had video. Yes, sir.
And you interviewed other witnesses at the scene, correct?
Yes, sir. As part of that briefing to try to get the information for the detectives.
Who exactly did you interview for the record?
Is it okay if I look at my
Sure.
notes real quick?
Please
There's
do.
obviously a lot of people. I spoke with the victim's girlfriend, Britany Jacobs. I spoke with the complainant, Robert Castelli. I spoke with two witnesses, Brittany Hicks and Latoya Wickfalls. I spoke with the witness, Vicky Conrad. And as far as actual witnesses there, those are the only people I spoke to, sir. I eventually spoke with the defendant's wife as well, ever so briefly.
Did you notice that Mr. Drejka's shirt was torn?
No, sir.
You didn't inspect it either way?
No, sir. Again, I was with Mr. Drejka very, very briefly, again, just to get him secured, and then my focus turned to the crime scene, not him.
Was Mr. Drejka handcuffed at the scene?
Yes, sir.
Was he eventually released from those handcuffs?
I'm assuming by somebody, not by me, sir.
No further questions.
State any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Sir, you may step down.
Thank you, sir.
State, please call your next witness.
May I have just a moment?
Are under standby?
The next witness is Robert Smythe. Deputy Robert Smythe.
Swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Sir, just step this way, have a seat for yourself, the microphone, and speak out loud, so voice report, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you please turn to the jury and introduce yourself and spell your first and last name?
It's Deputy Robert Smythe, R-O-B-E-R-T-S-M-Y-T-H,
And how are you employed, sir?
Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
About 12 years this month.
Prior to being employed with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, have you been employed with any other law enforcement agencies?
Yes.
What law enforcement agency is that?
I was a Clearwater police officer for 20 plus years.
Okay. I'm sorry, for how long?
20 plus, a little over 20.
All right, and what are your current duties and responsibilities?
I work as a bailiff here in the courthouse.
Easy for you to get here today then, correct?
Yes, I was already downstairs.
Back on July 19, 2018, were you a patrol deputy with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
I was, in fact.
At about 3:30 in the afternoon, did you respond to the Circle A in the area of 1201 Sunset Point Road?
I did.
What was that in reference to?
It was in reference to a shooting.
Were you in a marked police vehicle?
Yes, I was.
Was there anyone with you?
So I believe Sergeant Forcade and myself were talking when the call came out, so he was ahead of me, and we responded together pretty much.
Okay, but he was in a different vehicle?
Yes.
All right, so you were by yourself in your vehicle?
Yes.
When you arrived on scene, were there any other deputies there beside you and Sergeant Forcade and perhaps a Deputy Har?
None that I knew of. There may have been other deputies that were arriving, but we were pretty much focusing on what was going on.
When you arrived on scene, what was your focus at that time?
Mr. Drejka was, I believe he was sitting on a curb or something, and we went over and myself and Sergeant Forcade secured him in handcuffs, and then he passed him off to me, and I took him back to my cruiser and secured him in the back of my cruiser.
Okay. Did you search the defendant prior to putting him in the cruiser?
I did.
All right. And did you see the defendant in the courtroom here today?
It's the gentleman with the glasses.
May the record reflect the witnesses identified Mr. Drejka? Can you explain to the members of the jury how you go about conducting a search?
We're looking for any type of weapons or any contraband that they might take into our cruiser. First of all, it's an officer safety issue, so we don't want them bringing anything sharp or any weapons or anything in the back of a cruiser. So we start usually basically up in any clothing that they're wearing, we search thoroughly. We turn their pockets inside out normally. We'll search the waistband, the small of the back, any place where weapons or contraband can be hidden.
When you were searching the defendant, did you find a weapon?
I did not find any weapons.
Okay. Did you find anything on him?
I did. I found a magazine for a Glock 40 that had rounds in it. I found a loose round. Those both came out of his right front pocket.
Okay. Did you count out the number of rounds that were in the magazine?
I did. There were 11 rounds in the magazine, plus the one that was loose in his pocket.
May I approach the witness? I'm approaching with State's Exhibit number 6 for identification. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 6?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit number 6?
That's the magazine that I took from Mr. Drejka.
Okay. Does it appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as the last time that you had seen it?
Yes.
The loose casing, did you hand that off to someone to package or in any way secure it?
It was an actual round. I believe I did give it to somebody. Once I got to NDS, I transferred everything over to one of the detectives. I didn't take the casing. If they found a casing on the ground, I wasn't aware of that. I took the actual round out of his pocket.
Right, the actual live round.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have the witness open up State Exhibit number 7?
Okay. Trust me with the scissors.
I will have to. If you wouldn't mind opening up that box. Okay, looking at State's Exhibit number 7, do you recognize the loose round in that box?
Yes.
All right. And is that the loose round that you found in the defendant's pocket?
Yes.
If there's no objection from the defense counsel, the state at this time would ask to move into evidence State's Exhibits number 6 and State Exhibit number 7.
No objection.
And may I very briefly publish State's Exhibit 6 and 7? You indicated that you counted the rounds that were in the magazine, correct?
That is correct.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 13A through E, but I just want you at this time to take a look at C, actually it'd be B, C, D, and E. Do you recognize this series of 4 photographs?
Yes, I do.
All right. And B, is that the magazine that was just admitted and
Yes.
published to the jury? Looking at State's Exhibit 13C, are those all of the rounds that were in the magazine?
Yes.
And looking at State's Exhibit D, is that a photograph of the loose round?
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about State's Exhibit E, 13E in just a second. What's in 13E?
It's a Black Hawk holster.
Now, in addition to the magazine and the loose round, did you find a holster?
On Mr. Drejka?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay. And once you found that holster, what did you do?
Took it off of his belt and secured it as well.
Okay, so that was actually on him?
Yes, it was on his right hip.
I have already approached you with State's Exhibit number 5, I believe it was. Could you open up State's Exhibit number 5, please?
Certainly. me open the bag inside too?
Yes, please. Well, I think the holster is outside of it.
Yeah.
All right, looking at State's Exhibit number 5, do you recognize that item?
Yes.
All right, and you indicated, what is that item?
It's a Black Hawk holster for a semi-automatic firearm.
Okay, and can you show the members of the jury, you recall exactly where it was that you found that on the defendant?
On his right hip, right about, may I stand?
Yes.
Right about where mine is.
And looking at State's Exhibit number 5, is that holster in the same or substantially same condition as the last time that you had seen it?
Yes.
Your Honor, if there's no objection from defense counsel, the state would ask to admit this as State's Exhibit number 5.
Any objection? No objection. It's admitted.
And may I hand it to the members of the jury?
You may. All right, members of the jury, any and all evidence that is introduced in the case, you'll be able to take with you back into the jury room when you deliberate, so this won't be the last time you'll be able to view any evidence. All right, any objection to 13A through E?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it's submitted.
May I have the witness step down just momentarily?
You may.
Really just photographs of what the members of the jury have seen, but with respect to State's Exhibit 13B, is that the condition of the magazine when it's fully loaded with all the rounds?
Yeah, well, maybe not fully loaded, but you would see a round in there even if there was just one round. But
Okay.
yes, if it was fully loaded, you'd also see the round.
Okay, and looking at photograph C, you indicated that you had counted out the rounds and given over to a forensic technician, I would imagine?
They were passed off to one of the detectives when I got to NDS.
Okay, and that's just a photograph of the rounds?
Yes.
Okay. And looking at State's Exhibit 13D, that's just a photograph of the loose round that was already passed around?
Correct.
And 13E is just photographs of the holster that was just passed around as well?
That's correct.
All right. I don't have any further questions. Actually, I do have one more, second time I've done that. Did you transport the defendant to the station for an interview?
I did.
All right. But you weren't involved in the detective's interview in any way,
No,
right?
I was not.
Just the transportation over there?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Flores.
Good afternoon, Deputy.
Good afternoon.
You arrived on the scene and you saw the defendant, Mr. Drejka, correct?
Yes.
And he was calm when you saw him?
Yes, from
He
what I can
was
recall.
cooperative with you?
Yes, very cooperative.
And at some point, you actually had taken him into custody,
Yes.
and you ended up going to his forerunner where he actually had secured his firearm, no?
No, I did not have anything to do with the firearm itself.
Okay, did you get anything out of Mr. Drejka's pockets?
Yes.
Okay,
The
what
ma-
you got the magazine, right?
The magazine with the rounds in it and the round itself.
The capacity of the magazine is what?
I don't know. I'd have to look at it.
Okay, would you say 13 possibly?
Possibly.
Okay, so let me get State's Exhibit 13. How many, in State's Exhibit 13C, how many rounds did you secure from that?
From the
Magazine?
magazine,
Yeah.
11 is what I counted.
11. And then there was one more in his pocket.
That's correct.
That would be consistent with him clearing the live round that was in the gun, correct?
Yes.
Putting it in his pocket?
Yes.
And then the other rounds, he separated from where the gun was not in his pocket.
No, the gun was not in his pocket.
So he was not a threat at that point to anybody, at least not with that firearm.
I didn't know if he was armed.
It would be
at the
impossible
time
for him
that
to
I
shoot somebody.
contacted. Well, I didn't know if he was armed or not.
Okay, got you. But it would be impossible for him to shoot someone without the gun and then all the rounds separated. Right?
That is correct.
Okay. The defendant asked you in the car how Mr. McGlockton was doing, right? Your Honor, you said the question cannot be hearsay.
Okay, the answer is though, but go ahead.
He did ask you how Mr. McGlockton was, right?
He did, yes.
Okay. You found out that Mr. Drejka had a concealed weapons permit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you notice that Mr. Drejka's shirt was torn?
I don't recall his shirt being torn.
Okay. Moment, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You may step down. State, please call your next witness.
Jennifer Hall.
Ma'am, if you can stand over here next to me, please. You stand here, face the clerk, and raise your right hand and take the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God? I do.
Ma'am, if you'll step this way, have a seat, pour yourself to the microphone, and speak in a loud, clear voice for the court, please. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your first and last name?
Jennifer Hall.
And how are you employed, ma'am?
I'm a forensic science specialist with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been a forensic science specialist with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
18 years.
And just briefly, if you can explain to the members of the jury, what do you do as a forensic science specialist?
I respond to crime scenes. I document, collect, process, and preserve evidence.
And when you document evidence, what would be a way that you would document evidence?
Photographs or video documentation.
Okay, and although it really doesn't come into play in this case, when you say process, what are some ways that you process a scene?
Process for fingerprints or swab and collect DNA.
Okay, and a way that we always refer to it is there's a show on TV called CSI. Would you be one of the forensic science technicians that does things like we see on CSI?
Yes.
Were you called to the Circle A store in reference to documenting and collecting some evidence regarding a shooting?
Yes.
Were you the only technician that responded, or were there several technicians that responded?
There were several.
Okay. With respect to your duties and responsibilities, when you arrived on scene, were you briefed by anybody, meaning did a detective or a deputy tell you about any evidence they wanted you to collect?
Yes.
And what was the evidence that you were responsible for collecting?
The firearm.
Where was it that you were told, and where did you go to collect the firearm?
It was in the defendant's vehicle on top of the center console.
And was that in the Circle A parking lot?
Yes.
I'm going to show you it's already been admitted into evidence as states 12A and B. You recognize the item in these two photographs?
Yes.
And what's this item?
That is the firearm that I collected.
And did you take these photographs?
Yes.
When you're collecting items of evidence, such as the firearm in this case, is there a particular process that you use?
We always wear gloves.
Okay. And you entered into the vehicle?
Yes.
And you used gloves, you picked up the firearm. What'd you do with the firearm once you retrieved it?
I put it in a paper bag.
May you approach the witness?
Okay.
I'm showing it's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 8. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 8?
Yes.
Okay. And what is State's Exhibit number 8?
The firearm that I collected.
Is it okay if she removes the firearm from the bag?
Yes.
And I will not be publishing that to the jury to go around. If you could just hold that up. And does that appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as the last time you had seen it? Obviously, the zip tie, which is used to make it safe for court, wasn't in there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. Other than that, it's the same firearm that you recovered on July 19th, 2018?
Yes.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Submitted.
When you recover an item of evidence such as the firearm, is it brought to a particular location?
Yes, it's brought back to our office.
Okay, and I imagine it's secured at that location?
Yes.
Is that the property and evidence section of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office?
Our office is not, it's actually next door to the property and evidence section, but eventually I submitted it to the property and evidence section.
I don't have any further questions, thank you.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi. When you arrived on the scene, did you have to secure the weapon? Did you have to secure the gun?
I secured it as in I collected it and put it in a bag.
Did you have to unload it?
No.
Okay. Normally, is that something that you would do if the gun was sitting there loaded?
It depends. I would normally probably have a deputy do it because they're used to handling firearms, whereas I'm not. So.
Okay.
But this one was already unloaded when I got there.
Okay. Do you know the capacity of the magazine of that firearm?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know if there's an active safety on that firearm?
I do not know.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect examination?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Great, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. State, please call your next witness.
Rhonda Klein.
Stand here, face the clerk, raise your right hand and take the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Ma'am, just step this way, have a seat, pull yourself up to the microphone and speak as loud and clear as before, please.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello.
break until 4 o'clock, and then we'll finish up, and hopefully we'll be able to get you home before rush hour. It seems like the roads are a lot more crowded after school started than they were just a couple weeks ago. So anyway, we'll give you a break until 4 o'clock. Okay, so we've already talked about with some of the photographs. One was where the victim ended up going and dying, and there was the bloody T-shirt there. But it wasn't really a photograph of the bloody T-shirt. It was a photograph of that area, and the bloody T-shirt just happened to be there. There were 2 photographs, and I'm allowing one to come in, which is B, but not C, because they were pretty much cumulative. So, what was the other issue? Were there any other issues?
No, Your Honor. I mean, other than the jury possibly overhearing our conversations at bench because it's so loud and close. It's because we can hear over here. Will's been able to hear our conversations all the way from that distance, so it's a shorter distance to the jury.
All right. Well, Will may have some super hearing. I don't know. Now, your job is to make sure that they're not able to hear anything.
In defense of that, with having that board system at that time, it was deflecting a lot that I couldn't hear because I don't have anything in this ear and I could not hear clear everything going on. And I tried to keep them a little distracted also.
Right. So part of your job is to distract people, which is something you're good at. All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so besides Ron Decline, any other witnesses for today?
Well, we could, or we could,
Who else do you have after her?
well, we have Corey Nerzig, FDLE, firearms.
All right, so why don't we do him, and then we'll be done for the day. All right, he's gonna say that the slug or the shell casing matched the gun.
And it was operational, it was functional.
We can stipulate to that, Judge. We don't need a witness.
Well, I mean, if they want to put them on, they have
Well,
the right
they have
to do
that
that.
option.
Yeah, we'll put them on.
If they want to stipulate, they can do that too. So you want to put them on?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll do those 2, and then we'll be done for the day. Is that good?
Yeah, I can release then Mr. Situlo, and we'll do that tomorrow. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So we'll be in recess until 4 o'clock.